Welcome to the Zeducation podcast, where it's all about helping people and organizations unleash their greatness. The Zeducation podcast features lively discussions.
When they share it, you see that they're beginning to feel empowered.
My heart, it's full of pride for me to be Te Maitai Samoa.
You don't necessarily need a degree these days. There's so many pathways to success.
Welcome to the Zeducation podcast. Welcome to the Zeducation podcast, where we help you unleash your greatness both professionally and personally. Today, we're taking a transformative journey into leadership through Te Ao Māori, exploring how the wisdom of Māori culture can inspire and elevate leaders in every sphere of life. Our guest, Eparaima Paratene, is a Māturanga Māori Performance Coach, leadership development specialist, and a former New Zealand Army rifleman. With his deep knowledge of Māori traditions and contemporary leadership practices, he empowers individuals to discover and embody mana, the essence of authentic leadership. In this episode, we unpacked what mana means in a leadership context, how the stories of different Atua or Māori deities can help us summon specific leadership qualities, and the ways that we can inspire and nurture leadership potential in others. So get ready to be inspired by cultural insights, practical wisdom, and actionable strategies to connect with your ancestral roots, unleash your leadership potential, and lead with integrity and impact. Thank you, brother, for jumping onto the podcast. Before we get started, please introduce yourself and maybe share something interesting.
Tuatai me mihi kia koe te rangatira, te parata nau I tūwhiratia, te kuaha o tō whare, me ki tō ngākau, moenei o ngā kaupapa, o tēnei ata, no reira kātika me mihi kia koe. O tira ki te whānau e mātakitaki ana I tēnei, e whakarongo ana I tēnei, o māua nei kōrero, wānanga, tēnei te mihi. Kia koe, o tira ki te whānau, katoa. So just firstly, just acknowledge you, bro, for opening up the doors to your whare and your heart, I guess, to our wānanga today and our kōrero. Honour and a privilege, bro, for me to be here, and to sit down with you and have a bit of a chop it up, pretty much. I'm just grateful and humbled to be sitting in this seat, bro, and to pass on whatever, I guess, knowledge that I have for people to take it and use it if they want to. Thank you, bro. And then to the wider audience that might listen to this, mihi tēnei kia koutou hoki. Who am I? Ko ai au. My name is Eparaima Paratene, and I was having to think about this, bro, because I knew this introduction would be something that I wanted to talk about in terms of my name. So growing up, I used to shorten my name to Eps to, I guess, make it a bit easier for people to understand or pronunciate. But as I got a bit older, I started to lean into my whakapapa and who I am as my, being Māori and my identity. I just wanted to have a short little kōrero on my name and I guess the importance of, if you do have a Māori name or a Tongan name or a Samoan name, really leaning into it. And, expressing your full name as opposed to cutting it short. Because I know, especially, Māori and Tangata Pacifica, we shorten our names to make it easier for, Pākehās to understand. I guess I just wanted to touch on that before, I guess, I progress into who I actually am and where I'm from. So that's my name, brother, Eparaima.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more proud to say it now. I guess, what was your other part-time, bro?
Something interesting. No embarrassing stories here.
Something interesting about myself. Oh, heck, I think I'm a pretty basic fella, bro, to be honest. But we're probably going to dive into it soon. But I did a bit of time in the army. I guess that might be something interesting that people don't know about me. Maybe they do. But yeah, I joined the army as a young fella when I was 17, so that's sort of maybe something interesting to share.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, no, we're definitely going to dive more into that, into the army side of things, because that's something interesting. And I think it's part of your story and part of, I guess, the birth of your mahi around helping rangatahi become rangatira. And I really love that. And I want to touch on that a little bit more. But I like your point around your name. Like my name, my full name is Pasitawa, like my first full name. And growing up, I was always called Pasi for short. But as I got older, like you're saying, like I started to appreciate like where my name came from. It came from my father, and what does the name mean? And when I pass away, you know, I want people to remember Pasitawa, not Pasi, and what it stands for. You know, so I think there's something special and meaningful behind that. But look, I love the work that you're doing, brother. You know, I think it's a quite interesting space as well. It's about leadership, but especially from a Te Ao Māori lens as well. Let's start there. What makes Te Ao Māori, I guess, the approach different to Western approach when it comes to leadership?
That's a great question, brother. I think very much similar, just it's through a different lens, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like leadership in general is the same across the board, but the difference is through a Te Ao Māori lenses. If we come from that approach, I feel like our people connect more, you know, to what we're trying to achieve in terms of being a rangatira, in terms of being a leader in their own right. And that can look like many, you know, different things, being a rangatira. But I think ultimately leadership is, to me anyway, looks the same. But if you come from a different approach, like a Te Ao Māori lens, then it just, for me, it connects better with me and my whakapapa, you know, my heritage. And I think it's, you know, in my blood. So that's why I'm a big advocate for rangatiratanga or leadership development, but through a Te Ao Māori lens, if that kind of sums it up and makes sense. Yeah, bro.
Yeah. And how do you approach it from a Te Ao Māori lens?
There's many ways, bro. There's many ways. One thing that I love about Te Ao Māori is it's so open and broad, and it's open for interpretation. It's not really, I guess we don't really get put into a box, so to speak. But I guess of late, an approach that I've been learning about and diving into is through our Atua. And I'm not too sure if you're aware of what Atua are in that approach.
If you can maybe expound.
Yeah. It's a tricky one, but I'll try to do my best to sort of not dumb it down, but make it simple for people to sort of understand. But Atua Māori is sort of like, people will know it as being gods, but it's not necessarily gods, what I've learnt. It's more so, there's many different meanings, but there's environmental knowledge. For example, we've got, I think off the top of my head, there's like 70 Atua, and they're pretty much all representatives of a domain that's in the environment. And every one of these Atua have a story, which you call a pūrākau, that's attached to these Atua, that us Māori people use to enhance and empower our lives, if that kind of makes sense. So that's sort of my breakdown of what Atua are, and what I've been implementing into schools have been around our Atua and how to connect to these Atua to gain empowerment through rangatiratanga.
Do you have a story or one example of how you do that?
Yeah. So for example, there's, like I said, there's quite a few Atua, and I'm still wrapping my head around all of these Atua, which is, I feel like it's going to be a lifelong journey of understanding, which is pretty cool, because I feel like I'll always be on the pursuit of seeking knowledge. But an example that I've been using in schools is maybe through, let's just say, physical activity, or haka, And there's an Atua that's commonly known around Aotearoa, and that Atua is Tūmatauenga, which is known as the god of war, sort of. So how I use this is we can summon these Atua, and all of our Atua Māori are actually within us that can be summoned. All of these Atua have personality traits, strengths and attributes. For example, this Atua Tūmatauenga is, like I said, widely known for the Atua of war and everything that comes with that. But this Atua has personality traits of courage, bravery, strength, and also this Atua contributes to everything to do with physical activities, hunting and fishing, etc. So when I go into schools and teach these sort of practices to our tamariki, for example, through the means of haka, I sort of prime them to think about this Atua to get those outcomes like courage, commitment, bravery that you might need prior to doing the haka, or that you might need prior to playing a sports game or playing footy or whatever it may be. So these Atua can be used and summoned because they are within our whakapapa, if that kind of makes sense. So there's a lot there, bro. But I'm just trying to, I guess, do my best to break it down.
For me, it makes sense. I mean, what I love about, because you said there's over 70 different Atuas,
Yeah.
and they all have, they are characters of their own. They have characteristics and all certain attributes.
Yes.
And when you say, and they have stories
Yes.
as well, so it's easier to relate to them when you've got a story and how the Atua or their characteristics shine through those stories.
Yeah.
You know, and kids especially relate better to stories. It just makes more sense. But I love when you talk about summoning the Atua, you know, inside of us. Basically, what you're saying is think about the Atua and summon the best attributes of the Atua.
100%.
And use those attributes to help you achieve your goal.
Yeah.
Like courage,
Yeah.
discipline, strength, what you talked about.
Yeah, for sure, brother. And there's, like, with all the other Atua, that's just one Atua. Like I said, I think there's like 70 Atua to my awareness, but there's so many other Atua that represents peace, that represents so many other things, which is Rongo Matane, which is widely known for the Atua of peace. So it shows duality, you know. It shows that, yes, you can summon this Atua Tūmatauenga, but then at the same time you have to come back into a neutral space, into a space of Rongo Matane, which is the Atua of, you know, peace and mauri tau, which is nice and settled. So I guess all these stories and our Atua are there for us to use as a tool to enhance our own personal lives in whatever field that looks like.
But
So-
also what I love about that is, you know, they're not just Atuas, but these are things, or, you know, these are beliefs that our ancestors held onto. And it's guided them and saved them,
Brother.
you know, in the past.
Yeah.
You know? And so going back to those roots almost feels like you're being connected back again to your whakapapa and your ancestry. And I understand that you're quite big on that, especially around your training and your coaching when it comes to leadership,
Yep.
is your whakapapa, your ancestry.
100%, brother. 100%. Like us Māori people, I'll just speak on, you know, our Māori people, but I'm sure it's the same across people that are from Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, the South Pacific, you know. I'm pretty sure we share, not pretty sure, we do share the same values, you know, in some way, shape or form, because we all come from, you know, Te Moana Nui a Kiwa. But I know for Māori people, we're very much ancestor driven. You know, it's in our blood. Like you see what's going on now with the tiriti, you know, the Treaty of Waitangi and everything that's happening now across Aotearoa. It's all tupuna driven, you know what I mean? It's all mahi from our ancestors. So for me, I'm just trying to bring back, I guess, our rituals, things that our people used to do, you know, back in the day, but put into a modern context, because we have to move with the times, you know what I mean? I'm not, you know, someone who's wanting to be stuck in the mud, but I feel like we can still learn from our ancestral practices, but put it into a modern day, you know, context. So yeah, bro, I think we're real ancestor driven, which is beautiful. And hence what I'm, trying to do is bring back all of these practices, all of these pūrākau, these stories that work for me. And if it works for me being Māori, I'm sure it's going to work for, other Māori out there, other tangata Pacifica as well. Because, colonisation has sort of taken these practices away from us, And again, this is not a, I guess a sad story about colonisation or anything like that. But colonisation has had an effect on our pūrākau, our stories about our atua, about our belief systems, and about the ways that we did things. So why not bring them back? Because they worked for our people back in the day, you know what I mean, bro?
Yeah.
So let's try to bring it back now and see if it works. It works for me, so I'm just trying to share, to see if anyone else wants to grab it and run with it. And I've seen it work, with kids.
And let's be honest, like leadership, no matter what era you were born in, the past, the present, the future, will always be an important thing for humanity. We need a leader, someone who can lead the way, show the way, inspire, motivate, have a vision, tell those stories that bring out the best in us. We will always need leaders. And I think, what leadership looked like back in the past, the principles are the same. And I always tell this like to people. I teach a leadership program, and I tell my students, principles like leadership and teamwork are universal. It's not limited to human species. Even you see in nature, when you see animals, they hunt together, right? They fight together to protect. You see insects and how they operate together, like ants. It's all teamwork. Like those principles are universal.
Yeah. 100%, brother. I think rangatiratanga or leadership can look like so many different things, you know what I mean? Like, it can look like leading from the front, whether that's on, on the marae and you do a whai kōrero, you're the kaimuhi or something like that. But then also a rangatira and a leader can look like the people, the ringawera, the people in the back, making kai, doing all the stuff that needs to be done in the, behind the scenes. So, I'm just trying to bring out rangatiratanga within people, in particular at the moment, within our tamariki, our kids, but identifying what that looks like for them, because there's many sort of leadership qualities that you can lean into. There's not just, I guess, one, being the guy at the front sort of. That's what I feel like a lot of people think what a leader is, but I think, like I was saying, leadership can look like so many different things,
I like that. And how would you define leadership in your own words? What is leadership?
Great question, brother. Leaning into who you are authentically. I feel like that's leadership, stepping into uncomfortable zones. I feel like that's leadership. Taking that step into the unknown, uncertainty. I feel like that's, what a rangatira is. That's what a leader is showing, although you might feel like a bit fearful or scared to do something, but giving it a crack anyway, which I try to implement, because there's many things, bro, that I guess have a bit of anxiousness and nerves around. But if I do feel these sorts of kariaroto or emotions, I lean into it anyway, bro. That's where the true growth is, as I'm sure you would know, brother. So that's, I guess, my take on what a leader or a rangatira is. Yeah.
We often hear about mana, and I've heard even people who are not Māori talk about mana, and I can understand the context in which they use it, but what does mana mean for our audience who don't really understand what that means, and what does it mean in the context of leadership?
I think mana, bro, is still something that I'm trying to do my research about as well, but again, it can look so broad and open for interpretation, I feel anyway. Mana is used, that kupu, that word is used quite a bit, for a lot of things, eh?
Yeah.
Like when you see someone that's like, I don't know, going hard in a workout or something, you're like, oh, that fella's mana, you know. So to me, I feel like it's showing heart. That could be mana. The word manawa is actually means the translation into English is heart. So if you're to take the mana out of that, it's to show heart, you know. So mana to me is showing heart, showing leadership qualities, you know, rangatiratanga. I feel like it's all interconnected. Yeah, showing your authority, showing your sovereignty. Ultimately, I think it's standing in your full essence, you know. That could look like so many things, but someone standing up to do a mīnes mihi could look like mana to me. Someone going hard on the sports field could look like mana to me, you know. Someone showing resilience, that's mana to me. Pushing through hard times, that's mana to me, you know. So like I was saying at the start, bro, I feel like mana is so open for interpretation. How you view it and see it is up to you. Yeah.
Nice. And I think that's good for our audience to know as well. So I've done a bit of research, and I've noticed you're quite big on, I believe it's your Māori.
Yeah.
Right? Or in other words, your life force, the life force in us, around us, and everything, and how that applies to leadership. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. I guess it just so happened to be that has been in quite a bit of my content. Not on purpose, it just has been. But yeah, to break down Māori, to the best of my ability and my knowledge, Māori is, like you're saying, the life force or life essence. It can be in a place, it can be in a person, it can be in a thing. So I've been using that sort of kupu, that word, Māori, quite a bit in my teachings in schools, to bring, I guess, a team together, or a group of people together, and to create like a life force that is alive and well. So, you know, when you walk into, for example, you walk into a building or a place, and you might feel like this energy, you know, or the essence of the room is off. That's what you will call Māori mate, or like a sort of like an uneasy, dead type of essence and energy in a room, or just an uneasy feeling. So there's so many Māoris. There's Māori oho, which is to be awake. And then probably the commonly, widely known one across Aotearoa is Māori ora, or tihei Māori ora. I'm not too sure if you've heard that reference before, bro, in someone doing a mihi or a speech. Have you heard tihei Māori ora?
I've heard it.
Yeah,
I've heard it
yeah.
many times, yeah.
So tihei is to sneeze, and Māori ora pretty much means to be alive. So there's a long line of, there's a whakapapa to that through Atua as well, tihei Māori ora. But pretty much when you hear that term, tihei Māori ora, that means sneeze, sort of it's the breath of life, meaning we're here, we're alive. So when you hear it in a mihi, someone goes, oh, tihei Māori ora, to start off their whai kōrero, or to end their whai kōrero. But it's probably used most at the start of a kōrero. That's them saying, kia ora everyone, I'm here and I'm alive. So that's what tihei Māori ora is. Yeah, bro.
I love that. It really opens your perspective, eh? So it's not just about people, it's about the environment.
100%.
It's about the context and the setting.
Yeah.
And as a leader, you think, cool, you know, how can I create an environment or influence where it creates positive energy in the room or for our people?
For sure, brother. Yeah, so that's really what it is, bro. That kōrero around Māori, and how we can bring, you know, a Māori ora or a Māori oho into, you know, environments to help people, you know. And that's what I've been sort of doing in schools, is to try and bring, you know, a Māori ora into the environment, so we can get some outcomes, you know, some positive outcomes for our kids.
I love that, because for me, it makes me think, like, as a leader, what kind of energy do I want to create?
Yes.
You know, you plan that stuff. You know, you think about that beforehand.
Yeah.
You don't just go there and wing it. and just go, okay, what's the vibe here in the room? No, you as a leader, you help influence that energy in the room, right? And like you talked about when someone starts their mihi off, that's a way that they help create that energy
For
in
sure,
the room
brother.
as well. And I love that. Brings perspective. If you were to create a leadership program from scratch, from a Te Ao Māori lens,
Yeah.
which cultural values would you focus on, like the top 3 Māori values?
Whew, he karo. Great question, brother. The top 3 values, is that your pātai, that I'd use to create a leadership type of program? I'll just go what's off the top of my head, bro? But whakawhanaungatanga, which is team camaraderie, ultimately, bond. I come from a military background, so I know what comradeship and team culture and the benefits of that is. Which is pretty much whakawhanaungatanga, getting to know one another, etc. So I'll use that definitely as a header or a value. Second one, maybe kotahitanga, unity. Unity to me looks like, regardless of where you're from, what background you come from, you can still come together underneath one umbrella, so to speak. Kotahitanga, and then maybe one off the top of my head is either rangatiratanga or mana. Like we were talking about before, rangatiratanga can look like so many things, and mana can look like so many things. So, probably those 4. I know you asked only for 3, brother, but I couldn't keep in the box. But probably those 4 off the top of my head, bro.
So what was that? Wharengatanga, kotahitanga, unity, mana, and what was the other one?
Rangatiratanga.
Rangatiratanga.
Yeah, bro.
Nice. I love that. That's cool. Look, you're very passionate about leadership. And just like before we started this podcast, I just felt that you're wairua, man. You just got this thing about this thing about you. You're just very confident. You don't need to tell me you're a leader. I can just sense it. And I've seen it on your content. You're really passionate and genuine about helping people become the best leader or best version of themselves. Where did that come from? What inspires you to be very passionate about rangatiratanga and helping people to achieve that?
Thank you, brother. Appreciate those words. To me, bro, it actually comes from a place of deep insecurity, to be honest. And insecurity, self-esteem issues, problems that, although I might present, confident, which I do feel like I am in a lot of spaces, I still have my days where I second guess myself, I question myself, and my confidence and my self-esteem. So I think it's kind of forced me, maybe not so much forced me, but it's put me into a place where I had to really lean into, these my rangatiratanga. Because I know if I'm feeling all these things, I know that other people deep down might be experiencing these things, but not letting that play, not playing victim to what we're actually feeling on the inside, that we can step through those sorts of barriers of insecurities and self-esteem and step into who you truly are meant to be. So I think, bro, it stems from having all of those emotions, growing up through maybe my younger years, and then still experiencing it to this day. So, that's sort of how I'd maybe answer that question, bro.
Yeah, and
I
I
think
think
I'm such a, advocate for rangatiratanga and leadership and being the best version of yourself, because I'm trying to live that on the daily as well, which is challenging, but I think we can, Yeah.
that's a good point. Like, leaders are humans, and leadership doesn't mean, or leader doesn't mean that you are not afraid or you don't get anxious, that you're always courageous. You have your moments.
100%.
And it's what do you do when those moments come, that matter most. So I want to talk about that because, it does take a type of resilience to be a leader, because it's not easy being a leader. It's a whole different level. It's a whole different level, different problems you got to deal with. how do you build resilience? What are some of the Māori values that's really helped you get through those tough times?
Yeah, I'm not too sure if this is more so about Māori values, but I think resilience is built through adversity, you know. That's why I love adversity too. You know, I love hard times, bro. I love stepping into it. I love when I'm faced with a challenge, you know, and barriers in my way, because I feel like a test from, whether you want to say God, universe, whatever it may be. I feel like it's just a test for you to firstly see if you've got the kahunas, bro, to step through it, you know, and take on the challenge. But ultimately, on the other side of adversity is where you truly grow, you know. Probably went off topic to your question, bro. But yeah, reverting back to resilience, I think it's built through adversity and hard times, brother. And I'm sure everyone could give a, you know, explanation or an example of when they face adversity, you know, and how much resilience was built through those times, you know.
Yeah, well, I can speak from a parent. You know, sometimes as a parent, you're like, you know, there is that instinct where you want to protect your children and you want to shelter them from the world, this and that. But then there's also that part of you that says you want them to kind of suffer because you want them to learn. Like the lesson comes from tripping up and getting back up.
Hard out.
Sometimes those lessons don't come from a book. It doesn't come from just sitting in a class. It comes from failing and learning from those failures.
Hard out, bro. And that's why I like, you know, if I'm in schools and stuff like that, teaching, I always tell them, hey, if you make mistakes, good. You know, good, bro. Learn from your mistakes. You know, that's where you learn the most, say. Like you were saying, kids learn the most, you know, after tripping up or falling off, you know, analogy, falling off the bike and getting up, and next minute they've perfected that craft, you know. So whenever I go into schools or I'm in that sort of, I guess, kaioko role, I always, you know, let the kids know that, man, make some mistakes. It's good for you, as long as you learn from it, you know. Don't always make the same mistake, you know what I mean? You know, because then are you really learning? But give it a crack. If you make a little mistake, then just, you know, go back to the drawing board and learn from it and crack on, brother. Yeah.
I love that. Let's go into that space for a little bit, because you do a lot of mahi with youth, with young people, especially young boys.
Yep.
You know, how do you help them and guide them to develop like critical thinking? Like, you know, when looking at things from a different perspective, from a different lens, because when we're talking about young people, that's different to adults.
Yeah. Hard out, bro. I think it's been cool lately because I've been working in the primary schools. Majority of my mahi has been with a sort of teenage kids, older kids sort of. But of late, it's sort of been in the primary schools, which has been refreshing as, because they bring a different energy, you know. They're real keen, real eager, you know, at that age. And you mentioned you've got kids, bro?
Yeah.
And you would probably know this. I don't have any kids yet, but they are wairua, they're there in spirit, bro, and in thought. But yeah, I've been working in the primary schools, which has been pretty cool. What was your question again, bro? I always go off topic. Sorry, brother.
No, you're all good. Like, how do you help young people develop like leadership? Things things like critical thinking and problem solving.
It's been quite easy, bro. Why I say it's been quite easy to help them and guide them through, you know, being a leader is due to their eagerness and their keenness at that age. So what I learnt about, you know, kids is they're not shy to express themselves. They're not shy to step into their authenticity, you know, who they actually are, because they just don't have that sort of conditioning of what life brings, you know, over time. So whenever I ask them to do something, or do you want to give this a jam, it's just 9 times out of 10, it's a yes, you know, and they just step into that role. So for me, it's quite easy, you know, especially if they're younger kids, to get them, you know, to, I guess, step into their rangatiratanga, bro, if that answers your question. So not so much strategies, but just giving them, I guess, the rākau and the platform, bro, and the forum for them to express themselves in their leadership qualities, you know? Yeah, bro.
Yeah. I often work with adults, and you know, sometimes employers are like, I recognize leadership potential in this person. We want to give them this leadership role, but they don't want it,
Yes.
even though they have all the qualities. You know, the potential, they just don't have a desire to take that role.
Yep.
And you talked about how these young kids who are just eager to just step into it, right? How do you? I guess you can't force someone
No.
to be a leader,
Yep.
right? But how do you recognize leadership potential in someone and then encourage them to become a leader?
Yeah. I mean, if we're to think of how kids, you know, get a task or get a role from an adult, they 9 times out of 10, well, what I've experienced and seen is, you know, they'll give it a crack. Why? Because they're not fearful of judgment from others, you know? When you're so young at that age, what I've noticed anyway, they don't fear judgment. So I feel like maybe as adults, why we might not take up that role is due to the fear of, shit, what if I fuck this up? Sorry, brother, I don't know if you can swear on this, but edit it out. But yeah, what if I, you know, make a mistake and what is this person going to think about me? You know, I feel like when as adults, we fear a lot of judgment and opinions of others, you know, which I still experience, you know, myself. Oh man, should I do this? Oh, what is this person going to think? Oh, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just looking back, you know, into how our kids operate, you know, they're fearless, bro. You know, they're fearless. They'll give anything a jam. And I think if we can adopt what our kids do, having no fear of judgment of others and giving things a crack, and at the end of the day, I feel like if you give things a crack, if it works, mean. If it doesn't work, so be it. You know, nothing will change really, eh, bro? You know what I mean?
Let's give it a go.
Give it a crack. Yeah, give it a dig, you know? I'm all about giving things a crack. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out for you, then you wouldn't know anyway. If you didn't not give it a crack, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, brother. So
That's why I like that saying, and you know, I'm a Christian, I love the Bible, and there's always that reference of, you know, be like children, be like little children. It's not so much like be childish, it's like be childlike, like someone who is open-minded and open-hearted, someone who is willing and humble enough to learn.
hard out.
Like that's what it's all about. Who, as we draw closer to the podcast here, to the end, I'm keen to understand who is a leader that you admire. Who is someone that you look up to and be like, man, that's a leader I want to be like?
Oh, heck. So many people that I draw from. So many rangatira I feel like I draw from. Guess there's not one that stands out. But I just take qualities from, a lot of different, I guess, chiefs. So I don't... It's hard for me to answer one person, bro, that really... stands out for me. There's so many, but what I like to do is take from each rangatira, take this bit of knowledge or mātauranga from this person and then apply it into, my life. And then I might see this person, whether they're Māori or Pākehā or anything, regardless of ethnicity, I try and just take little things, little bits of knowledge from each person and apply it into my own life. Yeah, so I can't give you one person, brother. Because then I'll have to shout out all of them and we'll be here too long.
So it's not so much the person, but you look at the qualities and you're like, I want those qualities. I'm going to apply that.
Pretty much,
Why
bro.
about that person?
Yeah. I admire a lot of, there will be some people, if I really think about it, that I maybe put at the forefront, on the top of the list, so to speak. But yeah, I'm also like to draw from these rangatira. But then I love to draw from our ancestors as well, hearing pūrākau and stories about our ancestors, how they, navigated across te moana nui a kiwa from Hawaii, our homeland, so to speak. That's hearty, bro, so I love to think about our tupuna. That's where I draw a lot of, a lot of things from, knowing that our ancestors come from the South Pacific, bro, across the harsh, sea to get to Aotearoa, and they would have faced so many challenges and barriers along the way, So I draw from those rangatira, our tupuna, and then our atua as well, our pūrākau, and our stories. and from all those sorts of things. At this current stage anyway, bro. Later on in life, I might draw from other things, but right now,
That's true.
yeah, bro. Yeah. You know, I'm always open, bro. I'm always open. Right now, just currently, that seems to be the theme for me. But I might shift into something else later on, and I feel like that's okay, you know, to be multi-dimensional,
Nice.
so to speak, brother, you know. But at the moment, because I feel like it's in my toto, in my blood, in my genetics, I draw from our tupuna. I draw from our Atua, and I draw from our practices, our pūrākau and all those types of things. So yeah.
Love it. Brother, look, before we end this podcast, and, you know, thank you being so generous with your time and your insights and your presence as well. For our audience, you know, we always ask this question right at the end. What's one big takeaway that you want our audience to take from our conversation?
Takeaway, another great question, my bro. I guess take what you want, you know, from this kōrero, from our little wānanga, bro. Take what you want. You know, we pretty much put a big hakari, which is a feast, you know, on the table in the forms of mātauranga and knowledge. So I'm not going to, you know, say to everyone that might be listening to this to take away this key point, but what I feel like we've did through our kōrero and our conversation is put a bit of a spread on the table. And, you know, if you want to eat that part of the spread, then you can eat that. You know, if you want to have that cracker or that chocolate, then, you know, go for it. So I guess key takeaway is take away what you want and apply it and utilize it and use it in your, you know, in your journey of life, ultimately for empowerment to bring out your rangatiratanga, deities.
I love that. Yeah. I think that you just summed it right there. Take what you want, but the most important part is action, is applying it. Yeah, because knowledge is potential power, but the real power is knowledge applied.
Deities.
Action. I love it. Well, thank you again, brother, for your time. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on, my bro. And yeah, like I said at the start, deeply humbled, you know, for you to even reach out and think of me, you know, in this light of sharing some, you know, some things today. So grateful, honour and a privilege. And I hope that people get something out of this kōrero today.
Oh, they definitely will. And the privilege is ours. Thank you so much.
E mihi ana, brother. Thank you.